What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we are going to start stripping down the frame to refinish the frame and get rid of that rust on the 92 Ford F-150. Starting off here with the F-150, starting to break it down and get everything off of it so we can start fixing up this frame. But as you can see, everything is a little bit of all kinds of rusted. So I'm gonna grab this PB blaster and soak this whole truck down, every bolt that I can, and see if we can have that help us take this whole thing apart. Have the majority of all the bolts soaked down, and we're gonna let it sit here for a little bit, let the PB blaster work, and then come out here, spray it again, because I guarantee you none of them are gonna want to move. I'm gonna start off by removing the gas tank because it's just a couple of bolts here to hold the lower strap on, and I got some nuts down there below it. So we'll take that off, disconnect the lines, and then we should be good to bring this out and drop that into the garage, and then we'll move on to more of the body and suspension. Went to take the last bolt out and then realized, fuel line wise, I don't have my tool to take that off. Drew has it. So gonna have to hold off on the fuel tank for right now. Rear bumper though looks like it's this bolt here and that bolt there, and we should be able to drop it. I've already disconnected the lines outside of this ground wire, which I do need to get off there, and I believe it's a screw currently holding it in place. Okay, so I was incorrect. It happens from time to time. There's two bolts here, one here and then one here. On this side, on the bolt side, at least on this truck, it's an 18. On the nut side, it's a 21. I'm gonna put the impact on there, try and get it off. Most likely it's gonna snap this bolt, but if it does, hey, means we need a new hardware anyway, right? Got the rear bumper off the truck. I suggest when you do this, get yourself a set of gloves. You can pick some up at funhover.com if you want, but this thing will cut into your hands, and it's not friendly. That thing is very heavy. It might be mostly because of that thick trailer hitch I got there. Over here, this was a 18, like I said, and the inside was a 21, but over here, this was just an 18. The actual nut that holds it in place, if you can see it right there, is actually part of the vehicle. So you don't have to worry about putting anything on the back of it. That turns out just fine. Right now, I'm working on taking off the upper straps for the gas tank. This here is a little slotted deal that turns in here sideways like that, and then bolts in at the other end on this truck with a 13mm nut. So I got one off. I'm gonna go ahead and pop off the other one next. Straps are off the top of the tank. I called Drew, I confirmed with him. He does have the tool for that, so we're gonna stop by later tonight to grab that from him so we can take out that first thing tomorrow. Right now, we're gonna do a few little odds and ends, like getting rid of this exhaust hanger right here. Once we get the tank out tomorrow, we'll start working on the fuel lines, and then we'll jack up the end, pull the rear end out, and the suspension. So I was able to get the hanger off. On one side, it is a 10mm bolt, and on the other, it is a 13mm nut. This end here is part of the whole unit here, so you don't have to put anything on the back, but mine snapped off. Wouldn't you know, it's the one that I needed to keep there that pops off. We now have our gas tank out. I went over to Drew's this morning and grabbed the tool to remove that line right there. So we got a little bit of empty space. We're gonna go through and start pulling out some of this wiring next, as well as any of these lines that we have sit along through there as best as we can before we start moving on to suspension. Some of our fir trees are still here in place, so for that I got an assortment of body clip removal tools, especially like along through here you can see, but a lot of them have already faded and broken, so we have a lot of zip ties in here. So I just have my snips going through, taking those out, and we'll be able to follow this up towards the body. What we have here is this series of clamps here that goes over, crimps everything down in, I guess is the only term I can think of to use for this, but it goes in, fastens it over. It's a little plastic tab you lift up right here, and it releases this. So now we just got to get to where we can slide all this out. Mostly it's fuel. We'll be able to detach it here, and then like right here, as you can see, it's very corroded. We're going to be able to take some of these brake lines apart, right here and move some of this stuff out here shortly. And then this whole back section will be cleared out outside of suspension, which we're gonna get to. Underneath the truck right now, following the brake lines, here we have our fuel filter, trying to get everything off, but I happen to notice something here that makes me a little nervous. One, we knew we were gonna have a little bit of rust, and here's a hole that goes straight through to the floorboard, which is common in northern vehicles that have seen a lot of salt, a lot of winters. But what really bothers me is this. Now, if you guys don't know what this is, I'm gonna hand the phone over to Nate here, and he's gonna look in through the window and show you what the issue is. Yeah, so this right here is where the seatbelt mounted. So all that wiggling is happening from this. Gabby and I drove this thing 1,100 miles from Illinois down here. Now, had we been in an accident, this seatbelt here wouldn't have done much. So now I'm wondering how much of this truck are we going to be able to actually save? I've never redone a vehicle like this before, so I would assume it's like any vehicle where you can find floor pans for it. But then when you also get back here, and this, if you look, is at a pinch in the body. Now we got to start looking into this and see if it's worth saving this body. If anything, perhaps we get a new cab and then we move all the interior over. I don't know if it's really worth doing it. At that point, it's a whole new truck. So is this maybe something that we just have that sits and looks cool, or is it decisions? Well, we have some fluids draining underneath the truck. You can see we got most of everything pulled out from here. We have the brake cables sitting right there, and this one brake line, which isn't fully connected. It's just in this one section that we need to remove, and everything else is free from the area. The only thing that we have to do now is sit back and assess whether or not we're going to continue this. Back inside, all cleaned up, really trying to contemplate what to do with this truck. I reached out to my brother Max, my cousin Jason, also talked to Drew. There's a lot of rust in this thing, and I'm not really sure what I can do with it. I know that some people out there may be able to do it, but it's beyond my means to handle this stuff myself, and I know to send it to somebody, it'd be rather expensive. Looking at it, I know a lot of suggestions that I keep getting is just buy a new truck, put the engine over, switch the interior over. You can find a junk truck pretty quick. But the thing is, I have my F-150 RTR. I don't really need another truck. This was never about me owning another truck or having a classic truck or anything like that. This was simply because this was my grandpa's truck and I wanted to be able to keep this thing alive. Now, if I switch everything over to a different truck, to me, that's not his truck anymore. I just have the interior in that. So I don't know if I want to do that. So the question now is, do you guys think I can repair this? Is this thing doable, or do we repurpose it? I can still do videos on how to deconstruct it for anybody who wants to know or is wondering how to rebuild one and wants to get through that process. But maybe we repurpose some of this stuff. I've seen a lot of really cool pictures of things that people have done to turn old vehicles into cool things in the yard, around the house. Man cave, or as I like to say, people cave kind of stuff, because you know Gabby's into cars too. So maybe that's something that we need to do. We're gonna look into it. I do know at the very least, we're gonna be saving this engine to put in a future project. But the rest of the truck, you guys let me know. Don't want to sound heartbroken over this, but this was very important to me to be able to get this truck back on the road. And I know here in Texas, to be able to pass safety, I won't be able to pass any of that with it the way that it is. So if you guys like this video, make sure to comment down below as to what we need to do. Give this video a big thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell notification, because you know you're not going to want to miss any of the other stuff that is coming up. And until the next one, peace.